Me arrested?
Not quite arrested unless you want to go on a heist with Dallas.
I'd be okay with this.
Count arrested.
Aaron would be okay with this situation.
Go on.
I'm calling Hoxton.
All right.
Okay, you can totally be worst character. I'll be Chains. Bring the reality check.
Okay, Pillman.
All right. Welcome back to All Flesh Must Be Eaten, boys and girls, the tabletop RPG where high culture and pop culture collide.
Where's the high culture?
I'm bringing it.
Okay.
Okay, sure.
When last we left the player characters, they had just bundled up into an elevator and began a lengthy ride up. The elevator is thankfully large enough to fit everyone, but the lights are dim, and the contraption's moving slow, presumably due to the emergency situation. Also, that whole sort of like theatric thing, builds up dramatic tension, all sorts of other shit. Between sessions, I revealed a few things to you folks. For starters, the scientists were moving a little bit slower than they should have. Their stat blocks were being treated as if they were wearing radiation suits, and they weren't. But it added an extra bit of flavor, as Seven said last week. Dr. Richard Savage noted himself to be a former combat medic before achieving noteworthy success on the 3 injured PCs with first aid, particularly on Fletch. That was quite
That's how I do.
I think it was, 6 successes he rolled on you?
Yup.
Yeah.
Turns out most of his injuries were in his head.
I think Doc Savage just felt compelled to because of my immense attractiveness.
Dr. Vivian Cross, the female scientist, revealed that she and Dr. Martin Reynolds were here on loan from the CDC. That's the Center for Disease Control. It's United States thing. She also noted that she didn't know prisoners were being kept in the facility. Off in one corner, the previously tased soldier Eddie is slowly regaining consciousness, held by the affectionately nicknamed Electro. I also ended up noting that there was, despite, some injuries that were sustained in the distractions as Dr. Savage moves around, that there is palpable tension within the elevator, particularly being between the CDC scientists and Dr. Savage and Dr. Knight, who is, I guess you could say, sulking off in one corner, like the intense eyes of him, and they are quite intense. He's got that, you wouldn't say a manic look to him, but this sort of this man of indomitable will who always thinks he's right, and he usually is. Just sort of seething at the damn elevator as it inches forward slowly. You've got the little girl who is still unconscious, and even if she is conscious, she's just not there. She's so drugged up she can't really devise any sort of coherency. Dr. Vivian Cross, who looks as the token depicts, as very much as Fletch understood that to be. Dr. Martin Reynolds, who is near there by the soldiers, his eyes keep shifting to Dr. Knight with sort of a accusing glare, and Dr. Savage, who is going about the player characters. What would you folks like to do while the elevator crawls along? You guys got plenty of time. Do the whole dramatic tension thing. You know how this pacing works. 5 minutes remaining. Fucker's got 15 minutes to do shit.
Hotman's gonna swoon dramatically because Doc Savage is just the coolest.
At this point, Dr. Savage is going to finish helping Trusty Tony pick glass out of his feet like John McClane. And he's going to look over at Popman and say, "Not any injury sustained, son?"
No fresh ones.
And in that case, the doctor's going to give Eugene a hard look and says, "I do have one thing for you." He'll fish into his pocket, and he'll actually hand Eugene the dim light of the elevator. You can see it's a lighter.
Doc of the year.
New best friend.
Doc Savage, you're wonderful.
I always get a hot box inside this fucking elevator.
He gives a wintry smile at Eugene.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Does anyone have some fucking rolling paper?
The good doctor then turns to look over Eddie, who is slowly regaining control of his senses, and is pretty mopey about the whole affair. But Electro, is telling him how useless he was, that Eugene saved his life. He didn't want to see all the shit that happened anyway.
Like, seriously, I'll settle for receipts. I'm not gonna pretend I'm too proud. No one. Okay.
Probably have to do it or something. Just be horrible.
You okay, Jordan?
Sorry.
But there's no need to apologize. I'm just asking if you are.
I should not eat spicy food.
Oh.
And then it goes down the wrong hole, and it goes down the wrong pipe, and then it's just
Down the wrong hole?
Yeah, I know how that goes with spicy food. Tell me what.
Completely incapable of eating.
I'm just.
When it comes out, there definitely isn't a right hole, but...
Alright.
That's just.
Yeah, focusing back on the
Wow.
slow elevator ride.
Kat's gonna be trying to make sure the little girl is as comfortable as possible. See if she's even slightly conscious, but probably get nothing out of her.
There does not appear to, comatosity is not existent for the little girl.
Okay.
Oh.
Can you describe this elevator to me?
Sure. Looks like something that would be used not exactly just to haul passengers, but given its size, it would also be used to haul actual freight in. It's rather sturdy, and its weight allowance is not listed, but you imagine, given the size and the fact that you're coming out of a military installation, is quite extensive. The lights are dim, and there is typical of these types of situations. It fits the stereotype. There's a red strobing light, which is slowly pulsing. It's a little aggravating.
It's using up that little extra bit of energy.
As noted, you've got Dr. Savage, who just helped pick glass out of your feet. He's messing around with the soldier, who's slowly risen up.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Dr. Vivian Cross, who is in sort of she's flabbergasted, she's spooked, she's talking all sorts of crazy scientific babble. She's looking back at Dr. Reynolds. Dr. Reynolds is kind of too busy glaring at Dr. Knight. Dr. Knight is too busy smoldering like he's fucking Scott Summersing the damn elevator door.
That's
So
a
there-
verb
so,
now.
So
He's
where are
Scott
the elevator?
Summersing.
Where are the elevator controls?
The elevator controls are actually right next to Dr. Knight.
Ah. Well, there goes that
Scott
plan.
Summersing is a gerund.
There goes that plan.
he has
Trusty
the
Tony
best
was
superhero
gonna
ever.
try to pry off the. His plan was to pry off the electrical thing and see if he could get this bucket of bolts going faster. The answer would be no, but he was
It's
not
barely
gonna
working, and you want to fuck with the control panel.
reckless.
It is also worth noting that any sort of movement like that would also be considerable pain on Trusty Tony's part, given
Yeah,
his,
so Trusty Tony's just gonna have a sit down.
the recently bandaged feet.
He's gonna have a nice sit down. Hopefully, get that lighter from Eugene here in a second.
But he's about to fucking John McClane the rest of this movie. Throw
Eugene.
Alan Rickman out a window and we'll be good to go.
Eugene, let me borrow that lighter.
Let me one of your cigarettes.
Okay,
Alright.
deal. Trusty Tony
And-
lights up a cigarette.
Hotman's gonna get it together a joint using the paper from the cigarette.
You're making a
Fletch
mess. Oh, that's
glares
perfectly
at
good.
both of you.
What?
Fletch is glaring at both of you.
He'll hand the tobacco back in loose palm.
In turn,
The tobacco and other stuff from the cigarette?
Yeah, whatever.
Dr. Cross frowns disapprovingly. The other doctors appear to be too distracted to really care, as do the soldiers.
Well, I no longer have that mental strain.
No, it's... This was a long, satisfied fix that you needed, and you got what you needed.
I got what I need.
Now the elevator is full of the smell of pot and tobacco.
I'm okay
What
with
a-
this.
What a wonderful mingle.
And sweat and blood and tears.
Ah, it must smell great in there.
Dr. Cross, still frowning, says, "There is a child on board here. Have you no decency?"
What, you want to hit?
I don't
wants to
really
give you-
think she's here.
I think some secondhand smoke is the least of her worries. After what military guys did.
She actually pauses and gives that serious contemplation.
I mean, I'll stop here in a minute, but I really need this.
I'll stop when I'm done, but you know.
I'll stop when I'm done, but fuck off.
Cat's gonna look at Fletch and ask him something. How much of what the general told me about you is true, Fletch?
Couldn't tell you that without knowing what the
That's
general
just
told you.
vague enough to be meaningless.
Yes?
I'll just start with the one that's been bugging me most. Rape.
What?
You're kidding, right? He actually said that?
Yeah.
I think we should go back down and find him. I'd like to shoot his ass.
Could I get an
I think-
explanation from you at least?
That it didn't happen?
He also mentioned statutory.
Again? I
Fletch,
don't know
let
where
me tell you
he's
something.
getting that from.
Fletch, let me tell you something. I don't think the general's down there. I think he already left.
Whatever, you know what I
And
mean.
probably a special, cool, speedy elevator instead of this slow piece of shit.
You're suggesting that the generals have their own, like, express elevator?
Why not? They built all this. Why don't they build a special express elevator? For like VIPs and shit. I don't know.
Electro pipes up in the corner there, still chiding his friend and giving him a hard time. "To my knowledge, there is only one entrance in and out of here. Security reasons."
If your security if your security measures were that effective, would we have had that swarm of Zeds walking through the science labs?
He shrugs, not knowing an answer.
Look, I don't know what that general told you, but for the sound of it, it's probably not any of it true.
It's probably not any of it true.
Not any of it. There's got to be some basis. At least, had to say that Mr. Tony here is behind a criminal enterprise, and having seen what happens to some of your cars, Tony, I'm inclined to agree.
Amusing, since he's actually the most legitimate one of us. Well, except for
Hotman will
Cat.
actually speak up with that and say, "Actually, I'm the one behind the criminal enterprise. He's just a rube. I've roped into it."
Tony's just gonna cover his face and be like, not even gonna
Hi, I'm a professional criminal. Nice to meet you.
Still cannot take Potman seriously.
Fletch grins at the word professional in that sentence.
Hey, it's how he makes his living.
how I make my money is not for you to decide.
Electro chimes up again in the corner. "Yeah, that's right, Eugene Freight Train McGannigan. I heard you whenever you were crying for mercy."
You know it. But I've decided I'm going by the Slayer now.
Well, it's not Bulldog, Hunter, or what are the other 50 other nicknames you tried again?
What other nicknames? This is my nickname now.
Did you pick that tape recorder back up? Maybe we could look at all of them. Well, listen to all of them, rather.
No, that tape recorder doesn't exist.
You know what? I think that thing still exists. We should probably go back to Summer Meadow and find it. That way we can prove exactly how many nicknames Popman tried out.
Yeah, no, that's no.
Whatever you say, Popman. Whatever you say.
But really, Fletch, how much have you done?
I still don't know what you're talking about.
Are we talking about drugs? Because Podman's done them all.
At this,
I have not.
at this wonderful, like, insightful question, the elevator actually slows, and the door opens. At the same time, as the door finally opens and the elevator comes to its slow stop after a slow crawl, you hear a voice from the speakers of the facility say,
Lockdown protocol complete.
That
That's a
can't be
bad
good.
thing, right?
Huh.
there is a shit from the soldiers. There is murmurs and looks of concern passing between the scientists, except for Dr. Knight, who was once seething at an elevator door and is now seething at the main door.
Sneer number 19.
Yes.
Hmm.
Ahead of you folks, it appears to be like some sort of small, like, it's not that big of a room, with walls, however, that you gauge would be heavily reinforced. You've got a display screen next to the what you imagine is the main door leading out of the installation, displaying a lockdown protocol sign along with override Sigma pass required. Off to the left of that, against one wall, you see some monitoring equipment, other electronic devices, screens, like maybe it's like some sort of front, like to do some sort of like weather monitoring or other shit out here, like if someone for whatever reason managed to come into this room. But it's all non-functional due to the low power.
Interesting. Well, don't everyone leave the elevator at once.
Not planning on it.
Well, I'm gonna sit down here until I have to move, because otherwise my feet will hurt. And right now they hurt very little.
Dr. Knight ends up going to the console himself, just that the snarl like etched onto his face as if this has greatly inconvenienced everything and everyone forever. Dr. Savage. Dr. Savage remains with the soldiers who, looking around a bit uncertainly, the lockdown has appeared to dim their hopes. Dr. Reynolds has just chosen to glare at Dr. Knight from back in the elevator. Vivian Cross stays near Fletch.
Step off just in case it begins to move again.
Okay.
So it's on the desk.
Yeah, that's a nice little desk. Appears to have been like a, there's a phone there, not operational. A nice tape dispenser, which is in function.
How much rolls left on it?
You got like over half the roll left. Some
Score.
minor like office knickknacks and shit, like you would expect at like a desk of someone just keeping post here. Though the chair was a little askew, so perhaps whoever was here left in a hurry.
Fine, I'll
So what's on this blown up chest of drawers?
Oh, that's, if you click on it, that's the electronics monitoring equipment. I didn't have icons. There's not a whole lot of monitoring, like modern icons that I can use to represent electronics, so I just decided that that chest of drawers would be all of that.
Close
Yeah,
up.
noticed that as well.
It's really too bad that this carpet over here has stains in it. So I'm going to take a wild guess from the sound from the voice earlier that door is locked shut.
Dr. Savage, who is next to Trusty Tony and still looking at after him as he eases out of the elevator, says, yeah, lockdown process complete. It's done as a security measure to make sure that in case anything drastic happens during experimentation or anything with prisoners, nothing can escape or leave. And it'll remain locked down until it is overridden by someone with sufficient power.
Who would that be?
I don't think it's our. Sorry.
There would be the agent Thoran. I do believe that he introduced himself to you before he escorted you earlier.
Yeah, we're acquainted.
And there would be the General, who I also believe has introduced himself to you in some form or capacity.
Single general.
Singular.
Yes. I do not pretend to know what the federal government does, but there would only be one general, at least that I'm aware of.
Flash.
Yeah, who knows what the federal government does? We don't. Secret courts. I'm done.
I'm pretty sure I had a different person calling themselves General than Fletch did when we were enjoying our stay here.
Why is that?
Do you remember a money?
No, but a name can be changed easy enough.
Well, what did he look like? I don't think.
Fletch can describe exactly what he fucking looked like with his photographic memory.
You ever seen The Evil Dead?
I kind of hope that's a joke, but I'm pretty sure it's not.
Bruce Campbell,
Who hasn't seen
also happens to be named General Campbell. He swears he's not the same guy, but I would swear differently.
Definitely a different person then. I
He's
had
the
a
guy in the voice box.
Rich Bassa, right? Deep voice.
That's the one.
So, you're saying he looked like Bruce Campbell to you?
Shit, I'd be surprised if he wasn't Bruce Campbell.
Well, they got Bruce Campbell working here? I pull that off.
It's obviously like my name is Bruce, right? Sorry, but more serious. I had someone God, it was horribly physically deformed. Large, uneven eyes, sort of like inflated face, small mouth for the head. Called himself Money.
Never saw him. What was his rank?
Called himself a general.
He wasn't in uniform?
Definitely in uniform.
Oh.
God, that face, though. Maybe it's whatever they were pumping us with, but...
So how are we getting out of here?
I don't want to say go back down and get a key.
Well,
guy-
But
It's not high enough.
There's
get
gotta
through
be a way to override the lockdown.
Electro is busy like sifting through like all the electronics pieces and says, "Not here. I left my toolkit down there after we opened the door, leading from your temporary accommodations. I don't have it with me."
Temporary accommodations.
Just say prison.
hey, Dr. Frowny Face.
He
There
means
is-
you, Dr. Knight.
There
With the
is
frowny
like,
face.
there is like a slow, like smoldering turn, followed
Eugene
by
catches on fire.
as like the doctor.
Eugene's already blazing.
Yeah, a bit more of the description. He is in his mid-40s. All the scientists here do look like they're in decent shape, to, more so than what your typical, like, standard scientist you imagine it of being in. But that makes sense if they do end up doing field work. And all of them have their own sort of quirks as depicted. Dr. Martin Reynolds, for example, appears to be obsessed with hating Dr. Knight for whatever reason. Dr. Knight, on the other hand, has, like, this aura of, like... sort of like this whole, like, captivating aura of command. Like, he expects to rule the place. And so, as he turns and ends up looking at Eugene, the full brunt of that is, like, directed into, like, a, like, force beam right at Eugene.
Luckily,
He's the girl with the shield.
high as a kite.
Dr. Martin is
Eugene's-
actually shifts out of the way.
Eugene's eyes are bloodshot, feet propped up on the desk, chair leaning back at a frankly precarious angle. And he asks, Do they like put a new Sigma pass down in the fighty place every time?
Insolent whelp.
So is that a no?
Yeah, like for real.
I do not answer to any of you. Interfering with my research.
Man, I
Also
didn't interfere
still-
with shit.
Pretty sure your research did the more interfering.
Still definitely standing there with a grenade launcher kind of set against his shoulder.
What, like you're gonna use that in here?
No,
That
no,
would be the best
like
idea ever.
holding it with one hand with it like draped across the shoulder.
Best idea.
I'm sure that totally. Fuck you, Dr. Knight.
You want to get blazed? Let's get blazed.
Blaze it. 420 no scope.
420.
Shit. God damn it. Oh, that got me. Dr. Knight ends up sneering and looking back at Electro. Soldier, if you can't find the equipment they need to be, then we'll simply have to return back down to the facility. Otherwise, we might be kept here until we starve to death. Who knows how long that bastard will take to release us.
So is that
Somebody
a
say
yes?
about limited power.
He waves a hand and says, "Oh, there's plenty of fucking power to run the damn facility for days. They wouldn't have the generators just shut down so easily. And it's not as if the infected subjects could somehow reach the damn generators from their position."
Did you
Unless
expect-
those
Oh,
explodey
your
guys
lab?
exploded too much? I don't know. I'm just...
They were those smart dudes.
Right, you're just talking from your stupid high. The doctor, fucking savage, enabled you to understand anything.
Hey! Leave Doc Savage out of this. He's alright.
What, you gonna stick up for him?
Yeah!
Is it the only person you can possibly defend after you failed every other single other time in your life? What have you amounted to, son? And then getting blazed in an elevator.
I don't know. I saved the heavily armed dudes on either side of you. I guess that counts for something.
One
Electro,
less heavily armed than
Eddie?
the other.
Yes, I'm sure you saved them, Mr. McGannigan. Perhaps we could have gotten more work done if I could not hear your cries of terror from your damn cell.
See, he called it a cell.
Mr. Knight,
That was sneaky.
Hey,
would you care to explain why you allowed your subjects to escape? Why your security protocols weren't enough to handle something that you had under control, quite obviously.
Dr. Knight looks up at Kat and says, "No."
No. No, so you want to shift all the blame onto the people you've been keeping prisoner for God knows how long.
It's like 2 weeks.
she's talking about us.
Hey, it's us.
Glad you caught that.
Would you care to explain why we're fine and almost everyone else in this facility is either dead or a zombie right now?
No.
PCP hobo.
So you just want to sit here, being angry, staring at a door.
I would have thought that you might be capable of realizing that I am standing, Miss Maverick.
Now we're gonna get into semantics. You're just like those kids back at debate club.
I mean, you're the one who's looming over me, thinking that your muscles could possibly solve the situation. If you would like to give it a try, by all means, use the damn launcher you brought. See if that can break through the door.
And use an explosive in a confined space.
Absolutely.
I thought you were a scientist, sir.
Wait. Eddie, do you have any demolitions training?
Eddie, who's looks back like, I'm not using anything in here. Are you crazy?
Where's the
Cat
thought?
looks over- We were just talking about explosives in confined spaces.
And Knight shakes his head. There's going to be no point to it. Just staring at a door or yelling at me or complaining about the current situation won't change anything. The
Then
answer-
Motherfucker, you're the one who's yelling. I am quite relaxed.
Then,
There-
Mr. Knight,
There's like like an artery that like twitches like in the temple, like a fist clenches. Clenches.
Did you seriously just call him Mister? Now you're gonna hear it.
Mr. Knight, would you care to explain where I can find these people, where they might be hiding? Or have they perhaps just walked out and left you in here?
People, I don't know.
He actually then turns his back on Cat and begins like conversing with himself in German.
Only got skills in French, damn it.
He's not speaking a real language.
All right. Well, while he's busy talking Nazi, does anyone know if they've got another of those fancy key cards down in the zombie fighty place?
Eugene, I think that was a Theta, not a Sigma.
And Dr. Savage leans over from Tony and looks at Eugene and says,
As mentioned, there were only 2 here who had a Sigma pass. The General and Agent. The Agent, you wouldn't find any. The best means to get out would be to either wait, and we don't know what situation that'll be, or to find something that would allow, presumably, the good soldier over there sifting for something of use. Lecter reports back that he hasn't found a toolkit or anything to help hack through the console. Or we pray.
You keep saying the general. Who is the general here?
Yeah, what's his name?
Dr. Savage, blinks in surprise and says,
Seems like all of us met different generals, Doc Savage.
Have they been injecting the scientists with amnesia drugs too? Because that'd be scary.
Dr. Savage gets a confused look and says, If he has not introduced himself to you, then it is not my place for me to do so.
Not your place. Look at where we are.
Yes, I'm still employed by the United States federal government.
Implying
is it
there's still
Campbell
a United
or
States
money?
federal government.
You've been left inside a secure facility with flesh-eating monsters, and you're still employed.
Please don't deign to explain a current situation to me. I am fully capable and cognizant of my surroundings.
Don't use big words. They confuse Popman.
I still think you're pretty cool.
Can you at least tell us whether the general was Campbell or Money or somebody else?
Dr. Savage says, To my knowledge, there's no one here by either of those names.
Then there's at least 3 generals, of which none might be the real one.
Look, does he have a deep voice? Like a really deep voice?
Dr. Savage says, Yes, but with voice modulation, anything could be achieved if you're
No,
going
I
to be
mean, like-
paranoid
Hey,
about
wait.
it.
Like, actually talking to him face to face. I mean,
You mean
little voice modulators now?
you mean the little orange guy?
Wait, does that mean you've never met him face to face?
Guys, I think the general had a beard. I don't remember though.
I'm not recalling a beer, but I do recall a nightmare face. Could be the drugs. Probably the drugs.
He was portly, had a beard. I remember this much, I think. Or is that Santa Claus?
Trusty Tony definitely does remember quite well the image of the general that he saw.
I don't want to give too much away.
Of course not.
Mine was wearing a white mask.